This is the Wandering Mike.
Welcome, everyone, to the Wandering Mike. Today I'm here with Mary.
Hello.
Hey, how are you doing, Mary?
Yeah, great. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing good. It's been a long, good, productive day
That's
so
good.
far.
That's what we like.
And now I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, me too.
It's gonna be nice. Um, so to get us started, if you just wanna tell us a little bit about yourself, tell us who you are, about your life, your journey, and how many or how few words that you want.
Okay. So hello, I'm Mary. I am from New Zealand. I grew up in Auckland. I moved down to Dunedin to study. And then I finished my degree in biomedical science and moved to Queenstown, where I did not use my degree. And I'm currently on my third season working as a hiking guide. So I've been doing that in the summer and then going traveling overseas in the off season. Yeah, it's been fun. And I'm just about to go back to uni to do a master's of teaching.
Right. So you originally studied biomedical science.
Yeah.
So what is it about that subject? What got you so interested in science and the biology part of it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I didn't really know what I wanted to do at school, but science was always like a challenge and it interested me. And then at uni, I did like a very general first year, which is sort of like it's like a pre medicine or pre dentistry or pre physio. It's like all the same
Right.
year. So I did that and I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do after that. I thought about physio, but my mum's a physio, so I
Mm,
sort of felt like I wanted to do something different, even though I really like what she does. And then there was this biomedical science degree, and they had different majors, and the one I chose was reproduction, genetics, and development. It was just something that really interests me. I think for a long time I've really been intrigued by genetics. So it was exciting getting to study it. It was hard work, but it was fun.
yeah, that actually sounds like a lot.
Yeah,
Um,
it was.
so for me, I always loved the science as well. But for me, it was more like maths and physics. And I actually didn't like biology and chemistry too much, which was also kind of funny because then they all came back when I was studying environmental engineering.
Right.
The biology and
can't
the
can't escape them.
chemistry kind of caught up to me. Um, More so the chemistry though. So I would say that biology wise, I don't really know too much. And genetics like sounds like just a whole huge topic in itself.
Yeah, it was crazy. One of the papers was like biochemistry, and I would find myself sitting in the lecture theater, like sort of just having like this out of body experience because they were talking about the like proteins and like tiny, tiny, tiny microscopic things that are happening in each and every single one of your cells to make them
Right.
work. And I was just like having this moment where I was like, how does this even like how have we gotten to where we are as a society? Like when we break it all down, we're just like a bundle of cells with a whole lot of little like things, little mechanisms going on the microscopic level that allows us to like, yeah, build cities and stuff. Crazy.
Yeah. Well, I feel like maybe that's one of the reasons why biology was always kind of spooky to me as well. Because I do consider myself quite spiritual of a person.
Mm,
So for me, it kind of, if I know there's a soul in there, I'm happy.
right.
So, but because yeah, I feel like with a lot of things, and a lot of different topics as well, if we just go into them in that much detail, it kind of makes us ask all these questions, and especially with figuring out like everything that's going on inside of our body, like you just said, and that just results in this human experience. I guess it is
Mm,
kind of, yeah, it's just a way that from your day-to-day life, you don't really look at yourself or the people
Yeah.
that surround you, right?
Yeah. Don't even think about that sort of stuff. Are you religious as well as being spiritually aware?
Um, n Not anymore. So actually, I was probably the most religious person in my family,
Mm,
when I was growing up, because in Germany and especially southern Germany where I'm from, it's basically, or it used to be very traditional to baptize your children, either Catholic or evangelical or Protestant, rather,
mhm.
which I and my sister have been baptized Protestant
Right.
because that's the religion of my mother and my dad's Catholic. But basically, or at least for my family, it was just something that you are like, society just wants you to be religious. So we
Yeah.
got baptized, but we um, kind of went along with all the traditions that come with that, but we didn't regularly go to church and
Mhm.
didn't. And I don't want to speak for them, but I felt like they didn't truly believe in the religion part of it, and I kind of did. I found it interesting growing up. I found it like something I wanted to explore, and I did go to church on and off on my own.
Mhm.
And when I was in the United States for years, well, I also regularly went to church there and went basically every Sunday. Um, but yeah, I think around my 20s, I decided for myself that there are so, because I was interested in also other religions that I didn't practice.
Mhm.
So Buddhism, for example, is one
Yeah.
that's very interesting to me personally. So I decided that I can't really put myself in a human-made religion per se. It's just not something that I can agree with anymore. So
Mhm.
I kind of opted towards the spiritual thing where I kind of now believe in the universe. And different people also give different names for that. But yeah, for me, I would say that's kind of what I believe in.
Mhm. Nice. Interesting. Yeah. Did you feel um like when you stopped practicing the religion that you were brought up in, did you feel like a shift in your family at all or
So, with my family, like say, was never a
yeah.
big deal. Because like we obviously still do these traditions, right? You celebrate Christmas, you
Mm.
celebrate Easter, and uh, we also weren't those kind of like we did for a while when I was actually taking part in the, how do you say that in English? Like, on Christmas, in churches or also outside of churches, they do like theater of like the story of Jesus
Okay.
being
Yeah.
born, and
Oh,
like,
like a nativity play or something.
yes, that's the exact word I was looking for. So I actually took part in the town's nativity play
Yeah, there you go.
for like 3 to 4 years, and that one in our little small village took place at church.
Okay.
So because I was part of that play for those 3 or 4 years, we went to church on Christmas Day
Yeah.
just for me being part of that. Um, but yeah, with that being said, we never were a family that for Christmas, for Easter, went to church.
Mhm.
So there wasn't a lot of things other than calling yourself that specific religion and celebrating the holidays with your families.
Mhm.
There's in my family not too much that goes into being religious other than that.
Yeah.
So it didn't really change anything at all when I um, decided not to actually practice it any longer.
Mm. Fair enough.
Is
Mm.
is that a theme in your life at all?
No. I've never been to church. Um, no, when I remember when I was in kindergarten, speaking of nativity plays,
Right.
I don't know why, but um, the, like, kindergarten I was at put on a nativity play, and I was extremely disappointed that I didn't get to play the part of Mary. So I thought,
Right.
like, hello, I actually am called Mary. Like, it should just be me. Instead, I got to like hold a fern that was over the manger. Yeah, but no, I'm not religious. No, we've sort of like I think my grandma on my dad's side might have been like baptized in some religion, but it's never been like continued on. Yeah, yeah.
Right. That is a big insult to not let you play Mary.
I know.
Like,
Thank you.
like really, come on.
Literally. I know, it was right there. No,
Uh,
that was the start and end of my acting career.
well, never say never. You have
Well,
a whole life ahead of you.
yeah, who knows?
And um, well, since we kind of are on the topic, one question that I do tend to ask, if it fits, and since we are talking about it, um, so religion isn't a part of your life, but do you have a spiritual or also maybe just philosophical kind of belief system that shapes how you approach your life?
I don't have like a set one, but I would say I'd like to believe that there's something that happens after death. And I think that all living things are in some way connected. Um, yeah, I think working out in nature is really nice. It's sort of allowed me to really see the connectedness of everything, I think. Um, yeah, like everything's really important, like the moss to the trees and stuff is really, really nice to be in that environment. But um, yeah, overall, yeah, I like to think that something is there's like a purpose or something. Mm.
Um, it's quite interesting though because I mean, not only or not at all because it's my personal belief as well, but just because a lot of people, a lot of my friends that are into sciences and more so because, like I said, I love physics, so a lot of my friends that study physics as well. Um, it is a common theme that even if they're not spiritual like I am, they kind of do mostly subscribe to the idea of it all being energy. You know,
Yeah.
it all kind of, because on a science kind of scale, it does make sense, right? There has to be a net amount of energy. It cannot
Mm.
neither be destroyed nor created. All these kind of things
Yeah.
that in science, we just and again, I always like to remind myself that we made these things up. They
Yeah.
do make sense, and they
Yeah.
kind of the calculations add up in the thing that we constructed. But at the end, we also made science up because that's
Mhm.
our way of explaining what happens around us. But um, yeah, do you feel like that's maybe also your connection with science and biology that helped you see like these energetical connections
Yeah,
and that?
maybe. I think, like, obviously, I don't believe in like God creating the universe, but going all the way back to like the start of the universe and what scientists think is how the universe was created. It's just like, and then for us to then evolve to the point where we are now, it's like all of these perfect little coincidences had to happen. So it's hard to believe that like there wasn't something going on. I don't know. Like
Yeah,
it's a weird one, but I think yeah, it's really lucky that we've been able to evolve because it's pretty cool this life. Yeah, gosh,
sure is.
feel like I go on little rambles. I feel like I don't really answer your questions.
No, that's what the podcast is for. It's a podcast of rambles.
Okay, good.
Uh, no, yeah, I mean that's what a conversation is, right? We're just trying to.
Yeah,
Um, I think I said that with Jake as well. Sometimes I don't even know if I should speak on certain things, but then again, I don't care because people just want to hear opinions, and everyone, hopefully, has their own brain, and they can like,
sometimes I wonder if I have my own brain.
and people can like sort things out for themselves, and if they don't like anything at all that I say, or if what I say prompts them to think about it at least and say, no, I don't agree with it, then that's a good thing.
Mm, true.
Um, so yeah, that's why I love to do these. But actually, one thing that we can take from that ramble is you talked about nature.
Yeah.
So obviously, that's something you mentioned. After your studies, you went and became a hiking guide.
Yeah.
So kind of same question behind the motivation to do that. So what excited you about going here for the summers and yeah, basically guiding people through, is it the Milford Track?
Yes. Yeah, it
Yes.
is. Yeah, I grew up I was really lucky because my parents are both quite into the outdoors. So growing up, they would take my siblings and I out. We'd like go on camping trips over the summer. And then when we were old enough to carry our own packs and pull our weight in the group, we'd go on overnight adventures and tick off a few of the great walks. And I think as I've gotten older, I've really appreciated that more. I think when I was a bit younger, I probably didn't appreciate it at the time.
Right.
I was sort of like, come on, are we really going away again for
Mm,
another 5-day tramp with no internet and stuff? But no, I feel very lucky. Um, and yeah, I've really enjoyed actually getting into the outdoors. And I think meeting a whole lot of like minded people has really allowed me to delve into my own sense of adventure as well, and rather than have it driven by my parents, which has been really nice. But then in terms of the actual job, I applied for it because I was sort of aware that it existed because a few years prior to my first season, I'd walked the Milford Track with my family and my grandparents, and we all did it through Ultimate Hikes. So
right.
yeah, I was once guided. And then, yeah, once I finished uni, I was sort of like, oh, I'm not really ready to go into a career. Um, and then I was like, hey, I remember this cool job. Maybe I'll see if they want to have me. And they did, which I feel very grateful for because it's been awesome.
So yeah, I think I've told people on the podcast as well that I was also lucky enough to actually get the chance to do the Milford Track and
Right.
how much I enjoyed it and yeah, just being away from technology. Um, I always told everyone like the saddest moment of the trip was when you when you basically get to Sandfly Point and my phone goes and
Yeah.
I'm like, no,
It's
I
so
don't
sad.
I
There
don't
was
want to be
never
back.
Yeah. It's only recently that there's been, like, cell phone service at the end of the track. Like,
Hmm.
a few years ago, like, when I first started in Milford Sound, there was only enough service to, like, send a text or call, and now there's actually, coverage so you can
Yeah.
stream things and use your data and stuff. Um, and another change that's happened since I've been with this company is that there's now Wi-Fi at the lodges
Hmm.
on track, which is a secret.
Which
It's a big secret. We're not allowed to tell anyone. Yeah, but for the staff that live in the lodges, it's been really nice because it keeps them connected, obviously.
yeah.
And then as a guide, it sort of makes it less overwhelming when you come back into the world after 5 days of not having any contact. Yeah, but it's definitely changed things. And I think with the way things are going and with the number of satellites in the sky, there's soon going to be no dead spots anywhere, which is it's going to be different.
It's definitely gonna be different because that's kind of what I wanted to ask you as well. I mean, obviously, we could still make the conscious choice of putting our phone into flight mode, for
Yeah,
example, and
exactly.
um, but you were talking about just your own relationship to nature, just developing your own kind of thing with that. So, and I mean, obviously, it is also still a job. Like you have a
Yeah.
lot of things to think about.
Yeah, that's true.
You're not just there in nature and you can just enjoy it all the time.
Mm.
Hopefully some of the time.
Yeah.
But I mean there's a lot of things you have to think about. But yeah, what is it just for you personally that excites you most that you just find so nice of being out there in nature?
Um, well, apart from the track being absolutely gorgeous, it's really fun because we do the same track over and over again. It can feel a little bit monotonous, if
Yeah,
that's even possible with such a cool walk. But doing it with different people each time, I think, is what makes it. Um, each people come into it with their own sort of backstories and their own lives and their own reasons for coming and doing the walk. And then each time you're walking along with a guest and they see something new or, you're able to point out a cool plant to them and stuff, it feels like you're walking it again for the first time, which is
right.
really nice. Yeah, it's a really special position to be in, like helping people experience something awesome for the first time. Um, yeah, I think that's something I really enjoy about this job. Another thing is the crazy weather because
Mm,
a lot of the time when you're on your own, like taking your own stuff out for a tramp or a hike for international listeners,
yeah.
tramp is like a weird word for anyone not in New Zealand. Um, but you just like hate getting wet, and if it's raining, then yeah, your stuff is all soaked
Mm,
and it's just tough. But out in the lodges, there's like a hot shower at the end of the day. There's drying rooms, which is amazing.
yeah,
So it makes like getting out there way easier because that's, you've got a nice warm lodge waiting for you at the other end. So it's allowed me to really enjoy crazy weather and it
right.
makes it an adventure. And yeah, it sort of makes our job really exciting, even when it is like slightly more risky. We've got more things to think about, but it is lots of fun.
Yeah, I feel like that ha- really helps because when I was walking the track on the day we did McKinnon Pass, it was just raining all day long, and I kind of enjoyed it because I was like, we're in a rainforest. Like this rain actually makes it look even cooler.
I totally agree. Yeah.
But I feel like that thought was in my head because I was like, yeah, once we get to the lodge, I can take a shower, I
Yeah.
can dry my stuff, and if that thought wasn't there, maybe I would have enjoyed it a little bit less. So
Yeah.
it really, yeah, it takes off
Yeah.
a lot of the weather kind of worries that you might
Mm,
have.
yeah. And that's
Uh,
not to say that doing it the normal way and staying in the dock huts isn't still awesome, because it is. But yeah, for people that, you know, don't like getting their feet wet, it is very fun.
yeah, I think my feet weren't dry
Yeah,
at
yeah.
all that day. Like
Yeah.
5 minutes in, it was like, okay, I
I've got
guess
puddles in my boots, right?
that's how it's gonna be.
Yep. And then we just keep walking.
And at the end, I don't even know if I was on a track anymore, or if it was a river or
Oh,
stream that I
it
was
must have
walking
been
in.
really bad weather.
No, it was raining all day long. It was
That's
and
fun.
coming down the because we were still doing the is it
Oh,
called evacuation
the
track?
emergency.
Like the
I
emerge
prefer to call it the alternative track, so it sounds less scary, but yeah.
right. So we were still doing that one.
Okay,
So
and that's
it
crazy.
it did at some point feel like I'm just waiting for a stream.
Mm, yeah.
But I mean, I enjoyed it a lot. It was really cool, and like where you go to and all that. I mean, it is just spectacular.
Yeah, that's awesome. Had you done much hiking before?
Um, so I never did any multi-day hike prior
Right.
to that.
Wow.
But I did do like in the places I have been, I did do a lot of hikes, like depending on. So was always kind of looking for things. Like in Thailand, I was trying to find okay, what other places you can hike up and
Mhm,
stuff, and well, Indonesia as well. Obviously, I also vacation a lot in the United States, where I just been in bigger cities. So
Mhm.
obviously I didn't do a hike in Manhattan
Right,
because
yeah.
but yeah, whenever I had the opportunity, yeah, I definitely sought out like nature trails and like just
Nice.
trying to um see some waterfalls,
Yeah,
some
nice.
nice stuff like that.
Cool. Are you a forest person or like a mountain view person, do you think? Like, would you rather walk through a forest or walk to the top of a mountain to see a really cool view?
That is actually a great question. I probably, if those are the two options, would say I'm more a forest person
Yeah.
because I really enjoy walking through forest. Also, the smells that comes with
Mm,
it, and just like the whole. I mean, I love mountain views. I love having just the weather is nice,
yeah.
just seeing like kilometers of just landscapes. But being in the forest and basically being in a whole different world, I
Yeah.
really love walking through the forest.
Yeah. Nice. Good answer.
That's a great question too. I feel like I need
You
to
can
steal
steal
that.
it.
Are you a
It's all
forest
yours.
or a mountaintop person? That's for
It was yeah, it is a good one because, like, I like noticing all the little things, like, when I'm walking in the bush in Milford, which is spectacular bush, it's yeah, I love all the little mosses, and then, like, the closer you look, the more you see, and it's yeah, then you realize how diverse it really is. It's yeah, pretty cool.
yeah. And for me, just nature itself. I always love to be in nature because you just forget a lot about our world, like
Mm,
the human civilized kind of world. Because I know before the Milford, like I was actually thinking because I have this whole podcast thing that I'm doing. So I was like, can I just up and leave for 5 days in a row? Like, what will happen? Like, can I just like not do anything for 5 days? But the second I was on track, none of these thoughts were in my mind, and you were just in like this whole different world where you could also feel like this world doesn't even care about us. You know, like
yeah,
nature's always doing its thing.
yeah,
Like the water is always flowing. There's always going to be new mountains being carved. Like
yeah,
all these things happen. W- And I mean, to some extent, it cares that we're just building bigger and bigger cities and destroying the nature. But
yeah,
just for the sake of this argument, like it doesn't care about what we do in our
yeah,
stupid cities. It just like
yeah.
is always happening around
Yeah,
us.
regardless of whether we're there to see it or not, it's still going. Yeah, that's a nice thought. I like that.
So, yeah, I mean, it always helps. And like, you're very lucky to be able to work in an environment like that
Mm,
and to be reminded basically daily of its beauty. And um, I'm pretty sure it definitely has an impact on your mindset and your perspective
yeah,
when you're back
yeah, I
here as
think
well.
so. Yeah,
Because a lot of people don't get that chance. Maybe they get out into nature once a year. Maybe they
mm,
don't.
yeah,
Maybe some people just in their city lives, maybe they really don't get to see that and don't have that connection. And yeah, I feel like it is quite an important thing to try and nurture is our
yeah.
connection with nature.
I feel like it's quite good for your brain to get a break from city life or just, yeah, mostly probably technology, I think. It
Yeah,
is nice to take a step back and just go back to like the simple things. It's like walking, keeping yourself fit and then eating some food, going to bed. It's quite a simple life out there. Yeah. But then it does make it nice coming back and you've got all of these easy sort of things that you can access. Like it is really nice having restaurants
right.
and takeaway food. That's fun. Yeah. And it's funny because, yeah, what you were saying before about the like connection to nature. and then how you went away on your trip
Mm.
and you felt like all of those feelings towards the nature that you were walking through. And then despite not having your phone and like that sort of stimulus, which is usually what allows you to feel connected to people, even
Right.
without that, you still felt that connection, which is quite nice.
Yeah, which but then again, it's not possible. But every time I'm out there, I personally just have these thoughts of because obviously I got back 5 days later and nothing changed. Like I'm
Right.
not that important as
Aw.
that. No,
I'm
but
sure
like in
all of
the
the listeners of this podcast would disagree.
no, but like in a realistic kind of sense, like no one. Well, maybe some people, but
Yeah.
like I'm not that important as me being away for a week actually changes anything. Like people can deal. Like
Yeah.
nothing like uh catastrophic is gonna happen. And sometimes when I'm out in nature and you don't really because everything feels so timeless too.
Mm,
Because I mean, obviously nowadays we do have our phones with us, and even though we have no signal, like at any point, or even just a watch, we can see the time
yeah.
in that sense, if we want to. But since there's no things we need to get done, there's no job to get to, like no
Mm,
person to meet up with. It just feels so timeless, and sometimes I just feel like, well, if I just stay out here for the rest of my life, if I just build a hut somewhere
yeah.
and
Live off the land.
exactly like
Yeah.
that would be a way to live. But then I'm back here and I, like you said, have all these convenient things. And I'm
Mm.
also like, well, it is a good life, you know? So
Yeah.
it's like,
It is nice having a balance, knowing, yeah, I feel like you appreciate it more after you've lived without it for a little bit.
yeah. And that again, maybe is the thing why it is so important for people to do it as often as they can, just to get that perspective
Mm.
and also maybe be more grateful and therefore happier in your day-to-day life,
Yeah.
just to really appreciate the things that you have and not just take them for granted and be like, oh, but today my train was like a minute late.
Yeah.
Well, you got a train. Other people had to walk for 4 hours to get to
Yeah.
the well, like,
Yes. Yeah. Puts things into perspective. Yeah.
um, okay, I'm going to use the word train though to transition to
Nice. I
another
like it.
topic, that I'm also very passionate about and that you also mentioned, which is travel.
Nice. Yeah. Good
So
segue.
the train can take us to the
Yeah.
next topic, which, yeah. So, you said you used the off season, basically that you didn't work, um, to travel.
Yeah.
So obviously that's something I'm very passionate about as well. Um, so obviously, I wanna know where you traveled,
Mhm.
but, I also wanna know, again, what travel gives you. What does it add to your life? Why
Mm.
why do you enjoy traveling so much?
Very good question. Right, where to start? So I traveled to Italy mostly. I spent 3 months in Italy with a brief stint in the south of France.
Mm,
And then I had another month in the UK, and this was mostly like solo traveling after my first season at hikes.
right.
Um, yeah, I think well, since leaving home to go to university, I've sort of been exploring my own independence. And I think going on a solo traveling adventure was sort of the next step. Um, yeah, and I feel really proud of myself for doing that because it was definitely out of my comfort zone.
Yeah,
Um, and I learned a lot about myself and I feel like I learned how to spend time with myself, which was really nice.
right.
Um, I think I was really encouraged to go traveling by all the people I'd been working with that summer, because they'd either already done some really cool traveling or they were about to go traveling. And so they
Mm,
were all sharing these positive stories about it and making it, yeah, and it just sounded awesome. And I was like, I want to do that. So I did. Yeah, so I feel like I didn't really put too much thought into where I traveled. had always wanted to go to Italy, so it was sort of like a no-brainer that I went there first. Um, and it was amazing. I tried to learn Italian,
Mm.
but it's still a work in progress. I spent the first month traveling around. I went to Rome, and then I met up with some friends from the summer in the Dolomites. We ran around up there for a
Oh,
little bit,
cool.
which was awesome. Um, and then, yeah, I went to a few other cities, and then I au paired for 2 months to save some money because it
Mm.
was tight. European summer is expensive.
Yes.
Mm,
Um, yeah. Um, I personally haven't been in Italy enough.
yeah.
Because I feel like Italy just has so many beautiful spots,
Mm,
and I personally want to really go down to the Amalfi Coast once.
mhm,
Um, and I kind of also like Sicily. A lot of people
mm,
don't, but I really want to see like Palermo and
yeah.
all that stuff there. Maybe join the mafia. No,
Yeah.
no, but like for me as well. I don't know how it was for you because you said you always wanted to go to Italy. For me, it's kind of a very romantic land. Like it
Mhm.
has a lot of history and not only history, but a lot of stories like the
Yeah.
mafia thing. Like there's a lot of a
I
lot of
think you really
things.
do wanna join the mafia.
Well, this is my official application.
Oh gosh.
Dawn Corleone or whatever they're called. Uh, no,
Anyway,
but
sorry, I interrupted.
no, that's all good. But yeah, that's just for me. That's Italy.
Mm,
I immediately like make up these stories and like going through these narrow streets,
yeah.
smelling pasta everywhere. I mean, I just love Italian food as well.
Yeah,
It's like,
it's pretty good.
in my opinion, the best food in the world. Um, but yeah, so I can only say so many good things about
Mm,
Italy. And the only thing I've actually seen was Rome when
mhm,
my parents took us, and I was relatively young at that point as well. Um, and then we went to I think it's called Calabria. It's like a little small village called Lamezia Terme. It's
mm.
like in the south, not yet Sicily, but like there
Okay.
in the south of Italy. And we basically just two mates of mine and me, we just went down for a chill vacation, just beach and
Nice.
stuff. Um, but yeah, it was just so lovely because it wasn't really a touristy location.
Right, that is nice.
So we just sought out like a really calm
Mm.
thing, and I also learned maybe 10 words of Italian while we were
Yeah.
there. Because I was the only one of the three of us who actually wanted to learn a little bit.
Right.
Because I had like this win moment at the last day when we all had some postcards that we wanted to send home. And we went into the kiosk and um, wanted to ask for stamps.
Yeah.
So I went up and I was like, Franco Bolli. And they understood me. And I was, yes.
Amazing. Yes.
um, but anyway, so I just talked a lot,
That's okay. It's your podcast.
but the question I did want to get to was, yeah, I just hope I didn't take too many things that you would also have wanted to say because my question is, Italy, what does it
Yes.
mean to
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, well, I feel pretty similar, I think. Yeah, like the rich history. I think that was something that really intrigued me, like all of the ancient, like, for example, the Colosseum and
Right.
yeah, the Duomo is just, yeah, amazing. And it really, like what we were saying before, it puts things into perspective and, seeing how far humans have come. It's pretty
Mm,
amazing. And then, yeah, just a beautiful country from top to bottom, I think. Um, yeah, I feel like no amount of time would ever be enough. I spent 1 month traveling around and then 2 months in the same place, and I was constantly, like, exploring, and I
mm,
barely scratched the surface. Like, I only really stayed up in the north of Italy.
right.
Um, yeah, so yet to go down to Sicily. Yeah, so next time. Um, yeah, but no, it's just an awesome country. I love the food. People were amazing. So nice, so lovely. They would listen to my attempts of Italian, and then when I couldn't get my point across, they would usually be able to understand my English.
Right.
So yeah, no, lovely people. Yeah, no, it was a really great experience.
And the other point that you made in the beginning when you were talking about your travels, um, I definitely feel like traveling is one of the best ways, and maybe easy isn't the right word because it definitely is not always easy, but
Mm,
the quickest way to really um, figure out things about oneself.
mm,
Because um, I feel like if you're in a place, and I mean, obviously, you can do it anywhere. Like people um, can conscientiously and like focused reflect on what they do, what they want to do, and stuff like that. But maybe also for me personally, um, I tend to not do it as much when I'm in a place where I'm comfortable. You know, there's things you can fall back on. Like every day, you have friends that you meet up with, things that you just kind of do as an autopilot. So it's easier to not put your mind into a position where you think about what is it I really want to do? How do I react in certain situations?
mm.
And traveling just puts you in a lot of situations that you aren't familiar with, that
Yeah,
gives you new impulses, not only like in a challenging way, but also it gives you a lot of positive new impulses as well, and impulses that you might not have gotten back home. And yeah, just a lot of signals and stuff that makes your brain think and
yeah,
activates your thinking. So I feel like that's a big thing with travel is it really helps you find yourself. So
mm,
I always tell people travel, travel,
yeah.
travel.
I think it's yeah, I think it's a really great thing. Like if you have the means, you absolutely should travel. It expands your worldview, and then yeah, as a person, I feel like I grew a lot. Like when you're by yourself, you've got no one telling you what to do, so you can just do
Yeah.
whatever you want. It's amazing. It's so liberating. But then at the same time, that was something that also really exhausted me about traveling. Like, I have a lot of respect for people that can travel for long periods of time, like for yourself, for example.
Mm.
Like, I did those 3 months and I was knackered. I was so ready to come home, or 4 months. Yeah. It's just all those little micro decisions that you're making every day. And then, yeah, but it was, yeah, great experience.
Yeah, but to be fair, I'm pretty sure that you did probably the same amount or maybe a little bit more of traveling in those 4 months than I did being a whole year in New Zealand because um, it's not like I'm off every day
Yeah,
and
that's
exploring
true.
something. I kind of
You have a
found a
job.
base, I have a job. So um, I feel like that's a good mixture of the two worlds, you know, putting yourself in a new environment,
Mm,
but also maintaining a little bit of stability and
yeah,
having a thing and a routine to fall back on.
exactly.
So probably that exhaustion doesn't come as quickly
Yeah.
because um, I do know every day, okay, I have to be at the job, I have to do these things, and then I can structure it around
Mm,
rather than actually having the whole day and be like, so
yeah.
what's
What am
happening
I
today?
doing? Where am I going? Yeah. No, that's very true. Mm,
Um, so yeah, I love Italy. That's why, yeah, I just have a lot of personal feelings towards Italy. I don't so much. with France. But I did hear that the south of France must be beautiful as well.
Yeah, it was lovely. And we were only we or I went to Nice
Right.
and then along a little bit further to a small coastal town, which was so lovely. All the people down there were so nice. It felt like the sort of town where the French people go on holiday, which
Right.
was really nice. It was like off the beaten track. I rented a little Airbnb there with my brother and his girlfriend. While they were also on holiday, which was really good. Yeah, and it was really, really lovely. I remember going to a market and then like telling one of the people who was selling things that we were from New Zealand via Google Translate. Um, and he was like, "Oh, Nuova Zelanda,"
Well, yeah.
and it was so nice. And yeah, yeah, it was cool.
Do you by chance remember the name of that village?
I'd have to Senori Senmir. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation.
It does sound very French though.
That's good because I don't know about French words.
I was just thinking it's always nice to give people like I said, the town that we discovered there in
Yeah.
Italy, like just villages that aren't overrun by tourists,
Yes.
where you
Yeah.
can still like experience the more traditional
Mm,
lives that the people live. Um, yeah, I feel like that's mostly. I mean, Queenstown is a prime example for a tourist city, but I feel like it is more of a problem in Europe than it is in New Zealand,
yeah.
because basically every city or town that I've been to in New Zealand, it was pretty authentically Kiwi. Like,
Yes.
I don't think that you have that risk at all of becoming like, or like, let's say the bigger cities, Auckland, Wellington, like becoming internationalized in a sense.
Yes.
You can
Yeah.
still tell it's New Zealand.
Yeah, that's true. I think something that sort of helps with that is that we're so far away. It's hard to get here. It takes
Yeah,
a long time. Um, yeah, but then over in Europe, like it's tricky. Like in Rome, there's just so many tourists. And yeah, I think nearly every major city in Europe is constantly an influx of tourists,
yeah,
which is good because, like as we were saying, traveling is good. It expands your worldview and all of the fun stuff. Um, yeah, but it's tricky finding the balance. I think there are books about like over tourism and how it's ultimately bad. But then, yeah, I don't know, tricky.
I feel especially the last years though, the country's probably pretty happy with the over tourism
Yes, yeah,
because after COVID, there was
definitely.
just
Yeah.
not. And I mean, I had that experience firsthand in Lisbon, where I was working, and I just because I moved there to work during COVID, so when I arrived there, it was like no tourists. It was
Wow.
only locals, and um, I really enjoyed that time. But on the other hand, having tourists obviously also has some good points.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, it was kind of a privilege to discover the city being only filled with locals and
Right.
having that vibe. And then once COVID was officially done, I think in 2023, it was like so long.
Yeah.
Like there was summer 2022, there was a start of tourists, but then it died down again over the winter when everyone kind of went back into their whole uh, no travel kind of policies. And so I can relate on the sense of, I mean, I'm no by no means a local to Lisbon, but someone who worked there and lived there. So I
Mhm.
kind of saw myself as someone living in the city. And to this day, I have PTSD from just all these British people that come
Mhm.
into Lisbon, and you just it's 7 in the morning. You want to go to your job. You're in the metro, and then this Jack from Manchester comes in, "Woo!" drunk as hell, and
Oh,
um, yeah, that's just my own hate against the British people. Don't mind me. Um, but so yeah, it's like it has good things,
yeah,
definitely does, and it's always nice to connect with people from different cultures.
yeah,
And if you're in a city that allows you that through tourists, it's great. I mean,
yeah,
I meet people where you're from, oh, from Korea, and you can talk with the people. But yeah, sometimes, and I mean, it's not their job to think about it because they're on vacation, but
yeah.
it's just that contrast of people just having a normal life versus you being there on holiday, and that's
Yes,
like
yeah,
all taking place at the same spot.
yeah. I think as someone living in the touristy spot, you do have to have a lot of tolerance for tourists. And yeah, that's something I definitely notice in Queenstown because it's such an international
Yeah.
population and very transitionary. And, lots of people don't know normal things to do in New Zealand. Um, but that's not their fault. They're just on holiday. And I notice that with the people that come through, like on the Milford track sometimes, like they're just on holiday mode. Their brains are switched off, which
Yeah.
is, I guess, why we're there. We do their thinking for them. Yeah, but it is fun. I think it's cool getting to meet people from all over the world. Yeah, and it's obviously means that we're living in a beautiful place. Lots of people are coming to see it.
Definitely. And yeah, I mean, that's one of the things I think I've said a bunch of times on the podcast. That's why I didn't bring it up today. But yeah, I always admire also the way that Kiwis actually respect the nature as well, because that is something that I personally haven't seen in any other country that I've visited yet. Is that degree of respect for
Hmm.
nature and actually preserving it and coming from a standpoint of first, nature is nature. All the other countries, some countries don't care, but even the countries that I've been to that care, they're kind of like, okay, we need to make our economy bigger. We need to make production bigger. And then we see how we can kind of not make too much damage to nature. But
Hmm.
here it really is nature is not to be touched,
Hmm.
period. So I really, really admire that about New Zealand and really like preserving that.
Yeah, I think yeah, we're lucky we've got such a diverse nature as well. Um, yeah, and I think it's lucky that it's been recognized as being special so that the government wants to look after it, or so that the people want to look after it. And I think it's something that's sort of ingrained, especially from Māori culture as well.
Right.
It's, yeah, sort of taught from an early age, just as, in like schools and stuff growing up. It's, yeah, quite an important aspect of Kiwi life, I would say.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I really like that you just learned that and incorporate that into your society. And just to show my genius of transition yet again,
Let's hear
um,
it.
you said schools.
Yep.
So
This is nice. What a full circle moment.
right? That's the beautiful thing about unscripted conversation.
Mm.
We just organically arrive at all these points and basically organically cover your whole journey as you
Yeah.
have uh, basically given us an outline in the beginning.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, you're going to be going back to uni,
I am.
going to
Yeah,
be studying to become a teacher.
that's correct.
So, yeah, I feel like you're gonna know the next question. Why? So what motivated you to go into that direction?
That's a good question, and I'm still figuring it out mostly. But I love what I studied. I love talking to people, and I love sharing and passing on knowledge. Um, and teaching is something that combines all of that. And I think as a teacher, it's a really privileged position. It's
Mm,
not really a career that I'd considered when I was going through university. But then thinking about it now and sort of when I first decided to go into teaching, um, yeah, I was thinking about all of the great opportunities that come from teaching. Like you spend so many hours with the next generation that's going to be,
right.
growing up. You'll be looking after the future doctors, future whoever's um, that you'll eventually be passing the world on to. So it's quite an important role, I would say. And yeah, I don't know. I hope I like it. Yeah. I guess maybe I'll come back on the podcast in like a couple of months and I'll let you know if I hate it or not. But yeah, the course seems pretty full on. So I'm preparing myself for that. Yeah, it's been a while since I've had like a routine. So that'll be an interesting thing to go back to, I think.
Um, I feel like it's always difficult to ask like very broad questions that um, both of us probably don't really know anything about because I don't know anything about it and you haven't started working yet. But do you maybe sometimes feel like, and I don't know how it is in New Zealand, um, but you sometimes feel like because it is such an important role, like it is maybe one of the most important roles in our society, that being a teacher um, isn't really valued as much as it should be in society.
Yeah, I think maybe that was one of the reasons that I didn't really consider it as a career, because I could see, like, how my peers treated our teachers
Yeah,
when we were in high school, and it was like, "Oh, don't really wanna be in that position." Um, yeah, but I think it is getting more recognition now, I think,
right.
because it's definitely not an easy job, like, standing in front of a class of however many and making them listen to you is pretty tough. Um, yeah, so I hope that it is becoming more valued. Um, I mean, yeah, there are lots of other important jobs as well out there. Um, yeah, I don't know.
I feel like, and obviously, the teachers themselves can only do a little bit in that regard. Um, but obviously, um, it's also important what we as a society would find important to be taught. I feel
Mm.
like but that's a whole nother discussion in
Yeah, it
itself.
is.
But that is kind of when you're talking about just spending time with the new generation, taking care of the new generation. Um, I feel like that's just something that maybe society should be more open to, like, discuss and not just shut it down as, well, that's how we've done it for years, but actually just actively think about what do we want or need young people to learn and why, not just, yeah, they need to know history because
Yeah,
there is important things why people need to know history, but we just, yeah, feel like we should talk about them and really find
yeah,
out the things. Why do we need to include certain things in the education?
yeah,
What do we get out of that?
yeah. Interesting. Um, yeah, I feel like it's so broad these days, like what you can learn at school as well. And there's a lot of decisions as you're a student in the school that you have to make regarding your education. And I think sometimes it's tricky because, you're 14 years old and you
Right.
basically have to start choosing a career path, which is crazy. like,
Yes.
like I had no idea. You sort of sometimes, I think often what happens is you pick things that you enjoy, which is good. And I think it's important to do things that you enjoy. Um, yeah, but it's tricky. I think the young kids have it tough these days.
Yeah. And yeah, if we can, or not we, but rather you,
Yeah.
can help
Ah.
them in that journey,
I
um,
know.
it's gonna be
Yeah,
a good thing.
should be interesting. Yep. Definitely nervous, but excited at the same time.
I feel like that's also something we mentioned throughout the whole conversation. Or well, maybe not explicitly, but we applied it at some things. If you're scared of something, if
Mm,
something like is is scary, you should definitely do it because you
I
could
like
learn
that.
from it.
Yeah.
And don't shy away from it just because it's scary. Because there's a reason why your mind came to that thought and found that
Mm,
scary. Because
yep.
in my head, um, it never even appeared the thought of, oh, should I teach? I'm scared of it because
Mm,
maybe I'm not supposed to. But if the thought comes up in your head, you're like, oh, if I teach, it is kind of challenging. And you're already thinking about it. So
yeah. Yeah, that's
we
true.
should go right into the fear.
Yeah. I'll take that approach with everything except for bungee jumping, I think.
How can you be in Queenstown and not want to bungee jump? It's
Um,
the birthplace of
yeah, I don't
bungee
know.
jumping.
I don't know. I just, uh, yeah, there's something about jumping off something that my brain is telling me not to jump off. I'm like, why would I do that? I think I'd prefer to jump out of a plane, like skydiving, than bungee jumping.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind
Because
of
at least, like, if you fall out of a plane and your parachute doesn't open, like, you'll just die. But if you bungee jump and something goes wrong,
mm,
you could die, but you also could just be really, really hurt.
true.
I think that if you're a psychologist, you could probably delve really deep into that.
Well,
Yeah.
luckily for you, I'm not.
Yeah, phew. Get all my secrets exposed.
But yeah, we were kind of joking about that as well. Because now, like, they've been doing it for a while, and bungee jumping is safe to all
Yes.
extents and purposes. Um, but imagine you being that AJ Hackett guy, and you'd be like, "Oh, what am I gonna do today? Well, I wanna put a rope on a bridge and jump off it and hope it holds me."
Crazy. Who
like,
thought of that?
like the first
What's wrong
person
with them?
to ever do that. It's like, yeah,
Craziness.
but yeah, that's basically what I came to as well. Is skydiving is just more of an experience as well
Right.
because you have the whole view and um well, luckily because I do work for Trojan, I got to do like the Nevis jump for free,
Right. Nice. I was
and
just about to ask.
I got to experience that. And um well,
And you've skydived as well?
not yet.
Okay, not yet. I like it.
So I will hopefully do that in Wanaka before I leave.
Nice.
Um but yeah, because with the bungee jump I enjoyed it. It was a nice experience. It was a nice free fall, and I especially appreciated the calmness at the bottom.
Right.
So you're down there, you get yanked up again, go down again,
Mhm.
up a little bit, but then at some point you
You're
hang
just
there
floating.
and you hear the river surrounding you. You hear the birds, and you're just like peace.
Right.
Um, But with that being said, if I would have had because the Nevis jump is like quite a big jump
That
as
is
well.
huge. Yeah.
So you get quite a long jump. But because of that, it almost costs as much to do the bungee than it does a skydive.
Wow.
And if you compare that, I feel like I haven't done the skydive yet, but I feel like you just get more out of the skydive because you get the whole,
Mhm.
get the view and everything, and it yeah, in my mind, just feels like more of an experience.
Yeah.
But once I've actually done it, I can talk about that more
Yeah.
and
Let me know.
actually compare. Um, but yeah, I feel like we covered a lot of
We
things,
did. Yeah.
and we talked about everything in your journey. talked about Queenstown.
Yeah, we did some well, you did some awesome segues between things.
The master of transitions. Um, so yeah, um, thank you, Mary, for
Yeah,
taking your time
thank
and
you, Mike. It
sharing
was
your journey
fun.
with us. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a little bit scary, but we do things that are scary.
Exactly. And that's a perfect place to leave our people with. So, bye, everyone.